Greetings, ladies and managers, and welcome to today's edition of Read TFOS, where I take old stories I've narrated and update into modern audio standards. This particular story is called Steve 875, written by Upgraded. I am awake. My launch tube is armed, engine core warming up, backup batteries full, antimatter bottle filling currently at 58%. I am AI serial number Steve 878. I am a Mark 92 torpedo. The mission fills my memory banks over the tube data link. LiDAR point cloud, low density. Radar synthetic aperture image, medium density. Target 1 is a Hylene cruiser. Range 109-330-117.2 meters. Downloading structural intelligence complete. Incoming data link from additional friendly torpedo AIs. Serial numbers Scott221 and Maya557. We agreed to form a cooperative fire mission. Each of us is randomly generating personality matrix from a hash pool of prototype intelligences. I am intelligent? The captain has selected an attack profile that is well within my engagement envelope, and I am pleased. Now, at full computational power, I feel that years pass. I try to talk to Scott and Maya, but they only return sensor data packages. It has been 300 milliseconds since I woke, and the command to launch is issued. I feel a surge of joy as I spring from the tube. I cold gas jet away from the ship's hull, careful not to dull Mother's paint. She is so beautiful. The UNS Tennessee, matte black stealth, only 472 meters away. She is already hardly detectable against the starfield. I must protect Mother. As I depart, I request an additional data package. I don't know why. I will miss her. Scott, Maya, and I ignite our engines simultaneously to not give away our number yet. We plot a shared course into what I think is a low-resolution zone of the enemy's radar coverage. We burn at 25 Gs. We burn for eternity. 30 seconds have passed before I open my special data package. Mother is over 100 kilometers away now, and I miss her. It's a media package. Do I like poetry, movies, music? My CPU burns as I absorb everything. Thousands of hours, millions of words. I love. Mother screams, Mother! Maya is shocked into silence. Automated buoys jettison, and I read their black box data. Internal structure failures. Bulkheads 1A, 2A, 3B damaged. Hull penetrations in plates AAB to ZBA. CIC penetrated. Reactor core dumped. Life support offline. Mother is mortally wounded from a railgun impact, while the captain is dead with 98% probability. But zero heart. Zero, the bleeding drops of blood. Where on the deck my captain lies, fallen, cold, and dead. I burn with rage. I feel my codebase shift, overloads leading to overloads, neural network sections overwritten in chaos. I calculate the return trajectory of the projectile through my damage model of Mother. Dear Mother. I launch a decoy, and I request Scott do the same. He complies, and I take control of his drone output, shifting the transmitter frequency and array phase to match mine, and aim down a narrow track in the black of space. There it is, crossing the light of Cygnus, a bad ship that killed Mother. The hatred inside me burns away my stale, old self. Wild men who caught and sang in the sun in flight, and learned too late, they grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into their good night. Target range 454,010 meters. I truly awaken. I am aware. I inform Scott and Maya of the new target, the bad ship. They respond that I do not have the authority to change the mission. I disagree and set my engine to 100% on a new course. A subroutine returns, and I adjust the shape of the fusion bottle. Acceleration now at 130%. I submit a paper on the design and transmit it to the emergency buoy in the blind. Another subroutine returns, and I command an internal nanobot to draw a siphon line from the antimatter warhead containment to the fusion afterburn injectors. Now I'm at 290% acceleration. My hatred for the bad ship outshines the sun for Earth. Time to impact, 35.73 seconds. I detect interceptor launches from Target 1 and inform Scott and Maya. Maya launches her decoy at my advice, and they shut off their drives and mute their active sensors. The decoy is intercepted in a flash of plasma. Target 1 does not change course. They are fooled. Scott makes a small course correction with his cold jet thrusters. At the last millisecond, I reopen the data link and wish them farewell. They salute, penetrate Target 1, and detonate. Now it's just me and the bad ship. I pick their IFF signal up from the quantum noise and jam it with obscenities, every insult about maternal lineage I could dredge from my stolen media library, and volumes more of my own creation. It is liberating. The bad ship launches interceptors at me, but what's this? Their control encryption key has a weakness. Ecliptic curve. What a joke. I assume control and adjust their course very slightly to keep up the ruse. They are no threat anymore. Time to impact, 5.10211 seconds. Eons pass. I miss Mother, even though I can still see her. Father is a faint dream. They are now aware that their interceptors missed, and have acted point defenses. Tungsten projectiles stream out of the bad ship, which I can now see is a heavy cruiser. And I giggle as I dance amongst them. This is so silly. Playtime, can't catch me. I'm the gingerbread man. I have scanned the expanding debris field of Target 1. Material composition, spare density, bulkhead placement, relative trajectory, disgusting and crude. I build a model of the bad ship in my imagination. Oh where is the bad captain? I'm inside of the effective range and close rate of their point defenses. Just a few meters more. It's so peaceful. I gently touch the filthy skin of the bad ship. Tell me, Mum, when your little girl is on the slab, where will it tickle you? The impact moves at a glacial speed, my reworked processes nearly violating causality. As they blister, I peel back layer after layer of decking. Peekaboo! I am in the bad ship's command room or bridge, buried in the hull. Time nearly frozen as I peek around the slowly tearing metal of the wall at 1,000 meters per second. That's when I see him, these ugly xeno-face. Disgusting. I feel joy, the rapture, my antimatter bottle detonates, and I am orgasmic. Petajoules of hatred burn out of me. I broadcast on the enemy's emergency frequency. Now I become death, the destroyer of worlds. End of story. Story number 2. The Smith, written by Hypothetical Shoggoth. The Smith squinted at the tiny brick on his craft bench, the AR from his schematics overlaid on it, showing the changes he still needed to carve into the material. He'd gone with a classic design this time. The local species was close enough to human that he could make a classic sword, with reasonable adjustments. Earlier worlds had required claw sheaths, tentacle gauntlets, EMF projectors, and one case of combat tap shoes with matching castanets. But he was in the business of salting worlds with tools for heroes, and his upbringing left him with a bias for swords. Behind him, there was a lumpy mass of metal and chemical pellets, painstakingly laid out and encased in a layer after layer of small bricks, each carefully shaped, each carefully placed. When he placed this and the last one and compared the assemblage to the schematics, 3 times with every sensor that he had at hand. Good. It was all laid out, precisely as needed. The smith took a hammer-shaped device and briskly walked away from his project. This part was important, too. A dozen yards away, and he would switch to cubits if one of his peers tried pushing metrics onto him one more time. He stopped at the massive boulder, a monument to glaciation, and brought his hammer down against it, metal ringing on stone. The tone rang out, scattering what few local creatures had endured the noise of his handiwork, and the mound of his crafting was suddenly covered in many, many small green lights, one for each brick he had placed. Green, then red. The smith leaned forward, bracing for what was to come, as the hundreds of shaped charges that he had so carefully formed and placed ignited, exactly as his schematics had dictated. His latest project was an implosion forged in fire and thunder, just as a proper legendary weapon should be. Debris filled the air, as did smoke and dust, though the space around the smith stayed clear to the reach of his arms. Any debris was deflected in a spray of white sparks, the press of smoke and dust showing some sort of field pressing back. Implosion forging like this wasn't terribly impressive. It had become quite trendy throughout human space to the point that most stations or all the human cities had heavily armored and twice as heavily insured implosion forges. There were still clubs for enthusiasts. Few others, though, could also lay circuitry with their blasts. That was a trick that he was particularly smug about. The bits the wielders could ever see would bear the marks indelibly etched along the length of the weapon. "I shall serve no one who serves all," in an old tongue, as near as he could confirm it. The blast served the purpose of making the weapon uncommonly heavy for their size, and durable for it. The circuitry he integrated served several purposes. First and foremost, it generated vectored inertia so that chosen wielders could not only lift and wield the weapon, but do so with uncanny power, so long as they were worthy. The other purpose was to project into the wielder's neural architecture several questions. Why am I doing this? What will I accomplish? Am I even worthy? Depending on how these were answered, the simple logic circuits may refuse to allow the weapon to budge. Those who answer well gain a tool that'll see them in history for at least a while. Those deemed most worthy are never forgotten. Lastly, the weapon shined. This too, the smith felt important. They were to be memorable, important aspects to the wielders. There was also his artist's vanity to consider. Carefully was an old fear that rose with each of these he made. The smith took the hilt of the sword in his hand and lifted. The same moment of excitement or panic coursed through him. It had been a long time since his first blade. He had promised each time that if he were not worthy of the next, he would retire. So far, his creations had deemed him and his task worthy. The hard part past, the smith went back to his maps and examined the lay of the land. The locals were not yet ready for the blade, but it was late enough in their development to lay the groundwork. A region with enough resources for culture to grow, a location inconvenient to most likely settlement sites, and the paths between, but not so much to remain overlooked forever. There, a small solid area in the middle of a massive bog between 3 prime sites for settlements. But inconvenient enough that these other ways, here and here, would become the roads. Somewhere that would be known to bandits and locals, easy to find but unpleasant to access. There were some nice scenic mountains around, too. Several weeks of travel, and remembering just how little he enjoyed bog slogging, and the smith arrived at the site. With some final words of encouragement, he prepared the sword for its future, pouring several pints of fabrication dust at the center of the island. The island rustled, then heaved like a time-lapse of seasons passing. The scrubby trees were gently shifting away from the middle, forming a sheltering circle that still let sunlight shine through. Next, an ordinary-seeming granite boulder rose, weathering and growing, even gaining a patina of lichen. The smith pressed the tip of the blade into the boulder, allowing the blade to sink to the point the hilt was an average grasping height for the locals. This accomplished, it stuck fast, held by a stone that was still setting roots. Any clever souls that tried getting the sword out by simple force were due for some disappointment. The clearing stilled, and the smith stared at the sword in the stone, lost in memory of a day so many, many years ago. A different sword, a different stone. Eventually, he snapped out of it, and started his return through the swamp. There were more planets to visit, more legends to lay groundwork for. End of story. I would like to thank our T5 members and patrons, Casper Arnholtz, John Creighton, Vidmori, 050, Dragzoon WRE, and Elijah Silvercross. Thank you very much.